Everybody, and welcome back. And in the last few videos we finished the reason for why Cain's offering was not favored and himself, and the whole point of this was to understand why his name was said in the Jude book 11th chapter, where it says what the warning is for us, for what his character is, who his way is, and what we are not supposed to do. So the purpose was to understand why he was warning for us. But the clear message is he not put hope in God and delivered his faith towards God, rather act according to his own mind and purpose, which is the consequence of sin mind, and entered the Satan territory and murdered his own brother. So he delivered jealous, wrath, and anger, all of these fruits of flesh. So the spiritual lesson is for always put the hope in the God. That's the main point. We put hope in God, his plans, and exercise it in our faith. Not our will, but God's will is to be done. This way we can show that we love our God, not in the way of Cain. Abel, though, in the way we see, proved this, that he, in his best way, which is achievable by giving the sacrifice to God, which was blessed by God. And he is said now he is in the list of the faithful people who finished their race successfully, as marked as a good example, rather than Cain marked as a warning for us. So we understand this, that these two people are in this point. Next, we're going to look at the next person in the Jude 11th book, chapter, verse, remember. So as you remember, we read the Jude 11th verse. This verse was a very interesting verse to start our topic. And we're going to read it again to get our mind back into what we're talking about. Okay, so if we go to Jude 11th verse, we can read, "Woe to them, for they walked in the way of Cain and abandoned themselves for the sake of God, gain to Balaam's error, and perished in Korah's rebellion." So we can see here that the next one after Cain is Balaam. So the next one is Balaam. So let's see, when we see how he's described about Balaam also in this verse. So we can see he rushed for profit if we read the verse. And they say it's an error. So if we go back to the verse, it says that Balaam's error gains to Balaam's error for the profit. It says he rushed for profit into Balaam's error. But if this was a normal standard error or kind of silly mistake, there was no reason for God or for this to be self in the verse to say, so these three characters are a warning for us. So there's a bigger picturization for his actions, and since it said it's a warning for us. And his actions is even recorded in Revelation book itself. So this is also, from this, we can tell it's not just a small error, since it's been recorded in the Revelation book itself as well, the last book. So let's read it. It's Revelation 2nd chapter, 14th verse. It says, "But I have a few things against you. You have some there who hold the teaching of Balaam, who taught Balak to stumbling block before the sons of Israel, so that they might eat food sacrificed to the idols of sexual immorality." So, God revealed us during the period of the third church people. It says here, we need to understand, third church people, called as the Pergamum, it's compared as the people in the third church people are compared to holding the cunning teaching of Balaam, which causes Israelites to fall in against God. So what we need to understand here is what he does in the Old Testament was reminded until the last book of Revelation. So he does such a sinful action against God to be not recognized in a good way, but in a bad way. So we need to understand about Balaam here. So we don't know much about Balaam for now, but all we know now is, and from the verse of the 11th, we understand he rushed for profit and Balaam's error, it says. So we understand error is mainly like a small mistake or silly mistake. But the picturization or action that he's done, it says it's a warning for us. So if it's a warning, it can't just be a silly mistake. And we can understand how this can't be a silly mistake by how it's been recognized throughout the Bible in a bad way. We can see it's recorded in Revelation 2nd chapter 14th verse as the third church people known as the Pergamum are comparing or holding the teaching of Balaam, which is a bad thing, and due to this, Israel's fallen against God. They're saying this is a huge problem. Because they're holding the teachings, Israel's fall in fall against God. So we can understand that what Balaam's sin is not a small sin, but it must have been a huge sin, since it was a sin that was a big sin against God, since it's been said throughout the Bible. So I hope you understood the main point we've been talking about. So first, we talked about a Cain sort of recap. We understood about the two people. Cain did not show the hope towards God and exercise this as a faith towards God, rather did it in his own way, and in the end this happened as a consequence. He killed his brother and showed all his actions. But we can understand the spiritual lesson is for us that we must exercise our faith and show the way faith to God and do God's will, not our will. And we understand what Abel did was God's will. He understood God's will and exercised it as a hope, the hope of what God expected, and showed it as faith and gave him the sacrifice. Due to him giving the sacrifice, God accepted Abel, and then it says Abel is to put in the good books of people who successfully finished their races in the faith of God. Rather, Cain put as a warning. Then we looked at Balaam. Like we just said, Balaam is the second person who said in Jude 11th verse a warning for us. We understand that what Balaam has done, it can't be a small mistake, even though it says it's a small error, since we see that he has been said in many verses in the Bible, from Revelation, from the Old Testament to the Revelation, about his sinful nature, that is the sinful nature. So from this, we can understand that he's done a huge or a big sinful action to be recognized in the Bible in a bad way. So we'll understand more about Balaam in the next week's video. So see you then. Bye.